Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I'm the Senior Director Editorial for Brand Insider at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where we get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Jen Peters, and she is I want to get your title correct, Director of DTC, Martech, and Digital Compliance
That's
at
it.
Olly.
That's
Got it.
it. The whole thing.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to do this. You've been a longtime favorite with us at MediaPost, and I was so excited that we finally had the time and could coordinate our schedules to get this done.
Yeah, super excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. So you're one of our favorites. So I'm one of my favorites at there. So I'm glad to do this. But so I always start off, I do my snooping, and I noticed that you were posting about that you and your Ollie team, you had volunteered with Habitat for Humanity, which is such an amazing cause. And what I love about it is you're doing something. I mean, there's all types of volunteers, and I think all of them are wonderful, but just to actually be there and be a part of it, that must have been really exciting for you to do and be just make you feel good when you leave.
It was one of the coolest volunteering events I think I have been to. It was so fun. We had this huge warehouse, and so beforehand, we had team leaders, myself included, who went to Habitat and were trained on like how to build these playhouses. And most of them were like, everyone was like me. We're like, how do you use a drill? We were not experts at all.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this is part of our company offsite. We got this huge warehouse. We had all the pieces. We painted these beautiful playhouses and built them. And you're right. It's so nice to be able to stand back and look at something tangible and be like, I made that. That's going to
Yep.
someone. That's going to be in their yard. Like or daycare. It was really exciting. It was one of my favorites for sure.
Good. Well, and like I said, I think that's a wonderful thing you guys are doing. But so I want to turn it a little bit on you in the sense that the motto is for Habitat for Humanity. Really, it's showing up is all that you need.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you outside of the volunteering, but where do you show up in your everyday life? Not necessarily even about work, but just where do
Mhm.
you feel like it's the most important time for you to truly show up and be there?
I have spent the last probably 2 years really, really focused on being connected to people. I live in the Bay Area. I moved here about 6 years ago, so I didn't know anybody when I got here. So it's kind of like rebuilding your network of like friends and work related people, kind of all at
Yeah.
once. I mean, it's gone fine, but in the last couple of years, I've really wanted to connect more especially with other women, because I feel like we're now in a day and age where like women help each other, women support each other, which is really awesome. And I have been really lucky in my life to have mentors along the way. And when I sat and looked back at them, they were all men. So I really feel like I'm at a place in my life where it's so important for me to give back. I'm working with Next Up. It's a nice organization here in Northern California that helps women in business kind of be supported and be visible. Um,
Mhm.
but I feel like it's time for the give back piece of my life. So
Right.
very excited to do that.
Well, and I think a lot of us, we did have those male mentors
Mhm.
a lot of the time. I think we're seeing more women stepping up. I think it's changing, and I don't know, you can correct me, but I feel like the competition before with women, they were less likely to help
Yeah,
necessarily because maybe
absolutely.
everything they went through to try to break through in certain ways, and just it was a little bit more competitive in a woman's head, like which is, why is a woman more, why do you need to compete more with a woman than a
Mhm.
guy? But
Absolutely.
I do feel like it's changing, and we're seeing more women who want to be like what you're saying, like just want to be an ally to younger women starting out. And so, do you see that? I mean, you're sort of
Yeah,
nodding and agreeing, but
absolutely. I mean, I feel like there was a time where women sabotaged women in the workplace because there was only one spot. And like
right,
despite that there was like this imagination of scarcity of how many women could be leaders, how many women could be managers.
right.
Definitely changed. I mean, I got to share this, and I hope she doesn't watch this, but one of the pieces of advice I got early in my career from a woman was, you better always color your hair because if your hair turns gray, you're irrelevant as a
Wow.
woman. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, that wasn't that long ago when you think about the times then times now. But
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I work at Olly. We are 83% women. Like it is a women-led company. Our CEO is a woman, and it's really different. And I love it. I feel like all the women there are just kind of like thriving in that environment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's great to see that. And that's even like with doing this, interviewing women like yourself and seeing everyone wanting to step up and reaching the kind of success that
Mhm.
maybe, 10, 15 years ago we wouldn't have seen, even less sometimes, depending on the industry.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
love that. And it also where you're very focused tech. I mean, obviously
Mhm.
CPG, but you've always been a part of tech. It seems just from my snooping, I'm seeing that that seems to have been where you started, even right from the beginning when you were first starting your career. So I want to back up there a little bit and say, when you were graduating, when you were kind of thinking of your future, did you see this? Like, how did you envision your future, and what was your path to get there? Because again, tech is not predominantly women, or so it's
Mhm.
obviously more men. It's sometimes a little bit more competitive, or maybe a lot of times. So talk about that in your road to where you are.
Well, I actually started at Barnes and Noble in brick and mortar retail, and I dropped out of college while I worked there. And I will say, when I was in college, and I'll date myself, none of this existed. Nothing, none of this was even anything that we had imagined. So I still tell my kids now that are in college who don't know what they want to do, like just wait it out. You'll figure it out. It'll come together. Like who knows what it'll be. But I worked at Barnes and Noble for about 13 years, and then during that time, I did go back to college and finish, and I also went back and got an MBA. I pivoted. I was so lucky to pivot into digital, and this was kind of like the defining moment. Um, Barnes and Noble's a bookstore, and I saw a job opening for an online bookstore manager, and I was like, that sounds interesting. And I
Mhm.
got it. And I was hired, and the man that hired me, wonderful guy, really just thought, well, if you can run a real one, you can run a digital one. So that was really like the breakthrough moment. I think it's not often that you get that opportunity. And that's kind of I mean, that's what led me here. I spent 8 years there. I was at a Christian church supply company and built the digital team from the ground up, and it was great because also I didn't know anything about this stuff. It was
Well,
all
that's what I was going to say. How did you suddenly go into like this? Are you naturally technically minded, or?
no. I didn't think I didn't think so, but it was nice because it was a slow burn kind of. Like we started off slow, and it was nice because I could learn as we went along. So, the first person I hired was a website manager. The second, like a year later, we needed a social media manager. A year later, we needed a designer that just did email. So it was really kind of like incremental over time. And,
Hmm.
and it really gave me a lot of space to learn it also and get good at it. And even then it changes day to day. So that's one of the fun things about tech is that it's never stagnant, it's never boring. There's always something new. Also, there's always probably like something that breaks. Um, but it's just constantly an interesting thing. And then when I left the church supply company, I moved out to the Bay Area and I came here to work for an IoT company. And like we were just talking the other night about how IoT used to be the AI. Now IoT is dead and AI is king. It was like during the heyday of IoT, and didn't love it. I didn't love it. It was like not a good fit. But while I was there, I learned how to be a web developer. So we had an engineer who taught me everything he knew, and that was amazing. Another like huge pivot, I think, for me.
Hmm.
The next place I went was an agency where I just built stores for brands. Like I just built online stores, and it was so much fun. Really great brands I worked with, so much fun and really interesting, a lot of work, a lot of volume. And then I came brand side because I got tired. And so I hit it Ollie.
And then here you are.
Here I
Well,
am.
what I love about your story is you kept learning and kept taking those opportunities. A lot of us, women, when I say us, don't want to take something, or don't necessarily, it's not about they don't want to take it. They almost don't try for something that they don't have that skill with, haven't done before. And I'm curious, do you think today, so that younger woman starting out would have that same opportunity to try these things, these new things, or be hired if she
Mm.
never had that, like you starting out, you never did anything with digital, but yet you're brought in to start their digital
Mhm.
build these digital stores for them. And then you will to build websites. And then, you know what I mean? Each time you were doing things that you didn't know and you were open to it, which I think is so important. But what do you think today? Like, what would your advice be to that younger woman just starting out today who wants to be, achieve to your level, but with a tech side to it?
Well, I would say this. This is one of those things I feel like is going around all on LinkedIn probably for the last couple of years is the way women approach job postings versus the way men approach job postings. Like men will apply for a job if even if they don't meet all the criteria, they don't care. Even
Mhm.
if they only meet like one of the criteria.
Right,
If a woman looks at a job posting and she doesn't feel like she meets every single criteria, she will not apply for the job. So,
right.
first piece of advice, always apply for the job, always,
The
because
worst that can happen is you don't hear from them.
they don't call you, yeah.
Right,
Or you do an interview and you don't get hired, but then you still got
right.
the practice in an interview. So that I think it really starts there. Like you can't be afraid to put yourself out there. There's nothing in this business you can't learn quickly. That's the other piece. So if you don't have a skill set, there are a million online classes you can take. There are probably a million YouTube videos you can watch.
Mhm.
And as a web developer, you can ask ChatGPT if you don't know how to do it. I mean,
Right,
it's
that's true.
really awesome. That's my favorite thing. But there are so many ways to learn quickly that you can pick those skills up quickly. Like you shouldn't
Yeah.
doubt yourself that you can. And I mean, shout out to all the people out there too that give a chance to somebody. I mean, that's how I got here. So somebody took a chance on me. And I think as we mature as managers, we need to know when the right time is too to give a chance to somebody and help and get them in the role that they're kind of meant to be in.
Right. And I think, it can be a connection. Like someone comes in and they just feel like a right fit. And if all it
Mhm.
is that one skill,
Yep,
that's easily taught, usually. I'm not saying brain
absolutely.
surgery or something,
No,
but
absolutely.
it's if as long as the person seems the right fit and the go-getter or whatever you're looking for within your team.
Yeah, I'm one of my women that are on my team. I hired her right out of college. Like she did not have job experience, but I knew within 5 minutes of talking to her that there was nothing I couldn't teach her quickly and that she had all the raw materials to be really successful in the role. So I think that's like you have to look for the raw materials. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be everything all put together. The other thing I would say is that as a people manager, once you're good at being a people manager, that translates to literally any job that is a management job where you're managing people. Managing people is the same regardless of where you work. People are the same. There's always somebody that you have to mess with all the time. There's always somebody, I mean, there's just those people, those archetypes of people are everywhere. But once you get good at managing people, you can almost work anywhere because that is the hardest part. I think it's the hardest
Yeah.
part.
No, I agree. I think that's definitely a skill, I
Mhm.
mean, if you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm curious about if when you first meet people
Mhm.
or people first meet you, what do they get wrong? Like, is there
Mhm.
something that people perceive and then as they get to know you, they're like, oh, no, you're actually this.
Yes, actually. Yes, absolutely. So at Olly, it is a lot of women. I think I'm perceived as very serious and very abrupt, very direct. And that is not always the way that the other person is comfortable communicating. So I think I come off as like not mean, that's not really it, but I am very direct. And that is something I think I've learned how to soften a little bit over the years. But once somebody works on a project with me, I feel like it all changes. Like it comes around, and I mean, I'm silly and I have fun, and every part of my job is fun. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love it. And just every single day is awesome. I mean, not every single day, but you know what I mean? So I think that once we work together, it kind of comes together. But I do think I could, and I'm tall. So I'm like 6 feet tall. Like I could probably seem mean and maybe intimidating, but I'm actually not. So once we work together, like it's all good.
Well, I can actually attest to that. We've had this, both of us, I think we can say it here. We both initially thought neither one of us liked each other. I'm like, I was scared of you. Like, I'm like, I don't think she likes me. So I would just be, this is what you need to do on this.
But I was telling somebody like, I don't know why Lisa doesn't like me. Do you know why Lisa doesn't like me?
And then I forget where, I think we were in Santa Barbara. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
finally,
After like 8 glasses of wine, I was like,
yeah, we just started talking like, why? And we're like, no, I thought you didn't like me. And then we're like hugging.
it's the best. No, it's the
But
best. So it's great.
it is.
It's
So
such a
I can
good, I
attest,
love that story. It's so funny.
I can agree that you actually aren't mean.
Thank you.
You did come around. Not that you had to. It was, and I come around too. We
Yeah.
both
Yeah,
came
we did
around.
it. We did it.
I think it's funny though. you always think like you could have walked into the room quiet because maybe you were stressing about something.
Mhm.
But I take it as she doesn't like me, she's mad at me. And I think that's a woman, like I
It
think women
definitely is a
do
woman
that as
thing.
well.
I had this situation. I just came off of e-tail in Palm Springs, which is amazing. And I realized I do that still. And there was a salesperson that I had worked with on a project. We were like shopping, we call it, sometimes it's like dating when you're looking at tech and ended up not buying it for different reasons. I didn't feel like it was safe. I didn't feel like it was secure. I didn't like the tech.
Mhm.
And then I felt bad. And then I kept running into this sales guy every single place I went, and I just felt terrible. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's here. This sucks. Like, I'm so embarrassed. This is and why was I taking all that on? I don't know." But my
Yeah,
friend that's in sales, who's a woman, was telling her the story, and she's like, "It's just business. If he's
right.
a half good salesperson, he is not interpreting that way, but you are." And I was like, "Okay, all right, that's fair. That's fair."
Yeah, no, probably if you asked him, he'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
We
Like,
did. We talked it out.
yeah.
I was like, I'm really sorry about how things went down. He's like, why are you sorry? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been carrying this for like 2 years.
But I think we need to get over it that it's not always about us. You know
Right,
what I mean? Like
exactly,
really, when if
exactly. He's
you think
not
of
like
it, it
sitting
is.
in his basement a year and a half later, just thinking about me and having a grudge
And
against me.
that Jen from Olly, she's the one person I could have got.
What is wrong with me that that's the way I took it? But yeah, and he's great. He's a great guy, and we're all good now. But I think women do that. I think we
Yeah,
interpret a lot of things to be a certain thing, and it usually is wrong.
yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, I want to ask you to share a failure that, or a perceived failure on your end that you felt it was very difficult at the time, but it directed you in an even better spot.
Well, that I have a great example for that. So when I came to San Francisco, I moved here to take a job in IoT at a company that was mostly hardware engineers. And if you want to imagine what hardware engineers are like, you're probably right. It was weird environment. But I came in to do digital marketing, and there was absolutely zero interest in anyone in that company to do any marketing. They just wanted to build products. And I think that's common with startups where you're like, well, but if the product is perfect, we don't need marketing. And so it was a really weird environment, and I felt very out of sorts there. And I had just come from Nashville, where all my friends were, everybody, I'd known everybody at work forever. And I felt so isolated, like so isolated. It really kind of woke me up to how important it is for me to have good, solid connections at work. Like I need that or I will not be happy. I stuck it out for a year. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody there was bad. Like I have a couple friends that are still friends from there, but it just overall, sitting in a room full of engineers and feeling like you are not wanted there is not a good feeling, or that they think you're an idiot. They don't know why you're there. You're not contributing anything. You start questioning yourself, like, am I
Mhm.
contributing anything? Like, am I terrible at this? So
Right.
it was a really good lesson for me to know, like, whatever I do next has to be a place where I'm going to build connections with people. And that was also the place where I was working, on their website. And I asked one of the engineers who was not, he was remote. He did not live in San Francisco. Like, hey, can you do this thing for me? And he was like, yeah, I can do that for you, but do you want to learn how to do it? Do you want me to show you how to do it? And that kind
Wow.
of started down this whole path of like,
Yeah.
you will show me how to do this. Like I had just spent 10 years in Nashville fighting with engineers and developers like every single day. And suddenly somebody wanted to teach me how to do it. And that was a game changer for me. It made me feel like I had the power to do this now. I don't need to depend on other people. And then I left and went to an agency where I just did that. And I never would have been able to do that without Julian from Particle. Like, great guy, amazing. Changed,
That's
changed my
awesome.
life, changed the direction of where I was going.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference when you feel like the people you work with, and I agree as well. Like if you don't feel a connection with them,
Mhm.
or not, maybe not everyone, but a good amount, you do feel isolated, and then you
Yeah.
start doubting, like maybe they're not liking my work, or they're not
Yep.
liking me personally. And then just for someone to step up and want to help you,
Yeah.
I would think that means the world.
It was great. I mean, engineers are engineers, and the way they communicate is kind of the way they communicate. But I know that it came from such a good place too, even if even the words come out weird. Developers always are kind of a little bit weird. But yeah, it really is like it felt like a life raft, honestly. Like I survived because of that.
Wow. Well, I am very glad you did because that brought you to
Yeah,
Ollie, which
absolutely.
now I am going back to Ollie. I
Okay.
like to try to somehow incorporate the brand. So I'm going to ask you, Ollie has had many taglines over the years.
Hmm.
And it's funny, I just actually did another interview with a woman and her brand had a lot of taglines too. So I figured I'd take advantage of it and do the same thing
Evolution.
because especially when they're fun taglines. So it's fun to do. All right. So one of Ollie's taglines is happy inside out. So what I want to know is what is your happy
Oh, that's
personally?
actually a tagline we still use. It's on our boxes. So that one's current, that one's up to date. One of the things our CEO says all the time, is that you can't you can't be well unless you can be real. And that she lives that. I mean, I watch her live that every single day. And that is, I mean, our social mission at Ollie is mental health. And I feel like we take it really seriously internally and kind of externally and who we work with in the community and whatever. But I totally agree with that statement is that like if you can't be who you yourself, then you're not going to feel good. You're going to be physically impacted, emotionally impacted. So being real, I think, is one of the most important things you can do. For me, that has, because of being in this environment, that's become my happy. Like when you can be exactly who you are, that means, you're kind of achieving everything you wanted to achieve. So appreciate that from her. And yeah, I think you've got to be real.
And you translate that not just in the work, but in your personal life,
Yeah.
you just be yourself. And I think you get to a point where you're more comfortable with yourself that it's easier to do that. Whereas I know maybe when I was younger, I was always like, oh, I'm happy Lisa, or oh, you know what I mean? You sort of play
Yeah.
people perceive you, and
Yes.
then you sort of keep with that.
Yeah, definitely that comes with age. I mean, when I first started at the church supply place. It's called Cokesbury. I am not religious in the least, didn't grow up religious. And I was like, this is a whole new world for me. And the whole first year I was there, I felt like I've got to learn how to, we went to a dinner with some publishers and we were getting ready to sit down and they're like, who's going to say grace? And I was like, oh my God, do I have to know how to do this? I mean, it was just like, that first year I just tried to fit in. And then I suddenly just started being myself. And it was like everything came together after that.
Yeah. No, that I think it's wonderful. That's very good advice. All right. And I think these are all current because I think I got them directly from your website. So
Awesome.
I think they all are. Calm the chaos. So
Mm.
how do you calm the chaos in your life? And again, let's go more on the personal side as opposed to at work.
Okay. I struggle with that, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm a person that overextends myself a lot. I never want to let anyone down. And that is hard because you can't be everywhere all the time and be everything to everybody. I did a little therapy earlier this year to try to help with that because I could see myself going this direction where I was exhausted and anxious and like worrying about things at night and just not being able to separate work and life and realizing like my daughter needs me and it was a lot. So I did get some help, which is great. And again, I think a lot of it came back to something you said earlier, where it's like it's not all about you. And
Yeah.
and that is something that I think is like deep in women, where you really feel like everything is your responsibility. Like I'm an
Mhm.
oldest child, oldest girl child. Like we all think that we have to do everything. And one of the things I learned this year really was, and this sounds dumb because you hear this all the time, but I was terrible with boundaries. And I really made those more clear for myself. Um, and learned like I'm going to do one thing today. I'm not going to try to do eight things and then be disappointed because I didn't get to them and then feel bad and then like beat myself up inside. Like I'm going to set reasonable expectations of what I can accomplish. So that for me, been a hard one.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that. I think women tend to do that, but I also think when you're saying you got help or therapy,
Mm,
you don't need to whisper. Like like
I
so
know.
much, it's so much now. I love that it's so much more open and it needs to be that way. And we should, if whether it's a time in our life or whatever it may be. And I'm just as guilty as that. Like I should be definitely on someone's couch somewhere, but it's just, but I don't think it's something that we should be embarrassed about. And I do think that that's, something that not only women, men, everyone, it needs to.
Totally. I feel like everybody should do it at least for a little bit. And it's so accessible now. You can do it on your computer easily. It's cheap, it's accessible. Like there's no reason not to.
Yeah, and I definitely think that. Okay, next one. Let this be the year of you. All right, so
Mm.
what do you want for this year? What do you envision for yourself?
I last year, 2024 was probably the best year of my whole life. Honestly, there were just so many things that happened that were so incredible that I never imagined I would get to do, and places I never imagined I would get to go, and people I never imagined I would get to meet. Like it just at the end of the year, I think I was really sort of like reflecting on all the things that had happened throughout the year and really just how amazing it was. And and then I immediately start worrying about 2025. Like, well, how am I going to beat this? I'm like, what? Stop. You don't have to beat this. Like it was just I saw myself going that direction. But I think when you have a year living a life that's a lot bigger than a life you ever expected to live, you just got to celebrate that and also not build on it like how am I going to escalate this for next year. But I feel like it's such a time to just stop and celebrate and feel really really grateful, and then take that energy into the next year. And with New Year's resolutions, like we're vitamin companies, so that's when people take vitamins, is like right after the New Year's. You're
Hmm.
thinking about like who am I, who do I want to be, whatever. And for me it was like who did 2024 make me, and how am I going to be even better this year as a person? Not necessarily the things that I do or the things that I go, places I go, but how do I take myself into the year and not be like, here are my resolutions. I have to do all these things, because that's exactly what I tend to do, to just, to celebrate the wins and then move forward into the year with optimism and not necessarily
Right.
like a 10-point plan on how you're going to fix every single thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, last one.
Okay.
Oh, that was the last one. Oh no, wait, I do have the last one. Make a healthy habit. So I'm curious if there's a habit
Mm,
you have that you want to break,
yeah.
and how would you
A
add
habit that I want to break. Okay.
a
Okay.
habit you want to break, and then maybe what would you want to replace it with?
Oh gosh. I mean, I would love to be able to get up earlier and get more things done early. And it always seems like a great idea until the alarm goes off. And then you're like, I cannot do this. And so then what happens is I end up pushing everything into a smaller amount of time. So it's like it gets more frantic. Like I work out every day. So like if I don't do that first thing in the morning, then I gotta find another place to do it. And if I don't work out that day, I just feel terrible and I feel so bad about everything. And like this horrible person. So if I could just get up a little bit earlier, add a couple more hours to the day, I
Mhm.
think it would help me calm down a little bit and just feel more relaxed because there's more time.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I'm a night person. I'll end up working into the night, and
Mhm.
I'm up in the morning and I'm doing work, but I can't like motivate myself to go to the gym.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you have to rush out at the end of the day, or it just gets bumped or whatever. And so I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to like do, so it's just, I'm so envious of people who just pop up in the morning and are ready to go.
Today is a great example. Here's another terrible thing that I do. So today's been crazy. I have a freelance client who had a major issue, not their fault, just an external issue that was crazy, and a lot like 8 things due today, briefs and trainings and sexual harassment training and all these things. And I did not get up early today and work out. And I normally, old Jennifer would be beating myself up about that. Like I worked out 425 days in a row because I tracked my steps on
Wow,
the Apple Watch.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then, I always, when I knew I knew that wasn't great, but I knew that when I stopped doing that, it was going to be because I wanted to make that a choice, not because I just like couldn't do it that day. So I did that and it's great. So now I try not to I don't put as much pressure on myself as I did. I kind of try to like, just remove that. Like I'm not competing against anyone. I don't need to win. We do that in our own heads.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right. What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, TV. Oh, everything on TV, every single thing. We have cable. We have every single cable channel in my house. We have every single streaming service. Like we have it all. I love TV series. I am obsessed with like documentaries about crazy people, and I mean it's just cults. I do like some cult documentaries, but just I feel like TV is so good now. Like I just watched the White Lotus from last Sunday. Amazing. TV is so good that I don't even want to watch a movie. And now I'm like, "Ugh, who wants to watch a movie? It's only 2 hours long. I need 10 hours of content."
Yeah.
I'm
No.
like, it has to be a
But do
really
you
long
binge
story.
or because I like to savor it. I like to every once in a while
I do
something I'll
that.
watch and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to keep watching it. But in general, I like to know, okay, next week I can watch this, or it's just something to look forward to.
Some of the streaming services now have done a thing where they're like, you only get one episode a week. And I think that's good for me because I can't do that myself. I will binge it. I will absolutely binge it.
Yeah, no, I usually am good about that. But like I said, what's nobody wants this. Oh my gosh, I was just, is that what
Oh,
it's called? With
yeah,
Kristen
yeah.
Bell?
So good. So
I
good.
was just like, I watched that in 2 nights. That was just, I could not finish watching it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, awesome show. All right, so let's say you find a time machine and you go back to your young self, just as you were starting your career. What advice would you give young Jennifer?
Always be open to saying yes, even if you don't think you can do it. And I mean, I think in most cases I did that. It's kind of what
Yeah,
got
I think so. It sounds like
me.
it.
But there were opportunities I had that I didn't take. And I think it's one of those things where if you can kind of go through your life and mostly say yes to things, you're going to get so much more experience and so much like rich connections with people. I feel like your career will go further. I mean, all of those things are good if you're willing to put yourself out there. And I used to be, I mean, I wouldn't not shy. Shy is not the right word, but I was the woman who would look at all the job description and be like, oh, I'm missing this one. I can't apply for this. I mean, I absolutely was that person. So it would just be get out there and say yes.
Sounds good. All right, last question.
Okay.
We all have big goals, what we want to do the next 5, 10 years or so. What's your daily win?
Mm. Well, I do have an obsessive relationship with working out and then not feeling bad about it. So I'm not going to call that my daily win. Um, I think I feel really great at the end of the day. Well, actually, like a more solid example. I use the email app on a Mac, which is terrible and nobody uses it, but I do. And when I get emails that I can't handle right now, I flag them and then I go back later and I have like a list of emails that are flagged that I try to work through every day. Sometimes there's a lot. Like I was at e-tail, so I came back and I had like 45,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's stressful.
Yeah.
And there are some that like you don't have to work on right away. Like it doesn't need to be immediately addressed. Like it's
Yeah.
something you can whatever. So um, when I can get that number under 10, I feel great. Like I feel like I'm helping all the people who need helped. I'm
Mhm.
asking, it's half of them are scheduling meetings. And I mean, it's just like you just have to bust the calendar out and look for times where you can have meetings. And so
Right.
just doing that, getting them done, getting them out of there. Every time I like release a flag, it's like my heart lifts a little bit. But it's like a weird obsession I have, like how many emails I have flagged. I'm gonna see how many I have right now. I have 22. I don't like that. Not
Oh,
on a Friday, not on a Friday. So I would
yeah.
probably try to destroy those and at least get under 15 before going into the weekend.
All right. Well, I hope you get your daily win today.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, Jen, thank you so much. It was so awesome to have this. I'm so glad we were able to do it because,
Thank you so much.
we known each other for a while now and hang out, but just never having these kind of conversations. So it's so great to find out all of this about you.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. And as I always say, if you have a woman you'd like me, a woman marketer who is so impressive, you want me to share their story as well, let me know and I will do my best to get her. So thanks for watching. And again, thanks, Jen.